go after a tumor, any good surgeon will tell you, if you've got a cancerous tumor, a malignant tumor, you've got to cut whatever is in its vicinity. If you don't do that and you simply remove the tumor itself, the cancer will return. It will come back, and it will come back with a vengeance. That's the problem for President Putin, the Russian general staff. It's not enough to just rid yourself of the tumor, which manifests itself in the form of the Ukrainian army or armed forces. You've got the problem of this puppet regime, and that's all Zelensky is. Zelensky is a puppet regime. He's the puppet of Washington and London. Number two, you've got the CIA, the MI6 from London, the British intelligence operations, and the Mossad, all working together, not just in the Middle East, but also in Ukraine. They have to go. You can't accept any negotiated arrangement that results in the emergence or the restitution of another US, UK, Western puppet in Kiev. Unacceptable. Can't happen. You cannot have another military state emerge that's designed to strike at Russia. It's out of the question. And the CIA, MI6, Mossad have all got to get out. So under the circumstances right now, given the blatant ignorance of President Trump of this reality, or he's just unwilling to admit the truth. That's also a possibility. But I don't think he understands the gravity of what you and I are discussing right now. In the event that he wants a negotiated settlement, he has to understand those things are off the table. And they're not going to spend any more Russian lives or treasure unnecessarily. They're going to spend what they need to achieve the objective I just outlined. Get rid of the connected tissue as well as the tumor. We should be cognizant of that. We should understand it and get out of the business of trying to continually subvert them. This war began as a giant act of subversion aimed at undermining, destroying Russia so that the usual suspects, the financial elites in London and New York City and their backers, the neocons in Washington, D.C., could go in, divide up Russia, rape Russia, and put a puppet into power in Moscow. Well, that's over. That's failed. Donald Trump had the opportunity to distance himself from all of that and start, in a fresh direction that's in the interest of everyone, Europe, the United States, and the Russians. He didn't do it. And so now he is simply the pawn, the puppet of the same people that started this war. Nothing good will come out of this if he does not change his tune. And I don't see any evidence that he will, because he's also suffering from the God complex. I preside over the greatest nation in the world. Everyone has to do what I say. Look what I just did in Europe. They all got down on their knees and capitulated to me. Well, they capitulated, but part of the deal was you're going to continue to make this war with Russia go, because the globalist elites ruling in Europe right now are out of a job instantly as soon as it becomes clear Russia presents no threat. There's no hostility to Russia. There's none necessary. There's no war coming. So how do you justify deindustrializing your economies? How do you justify hurling your population into the Middle Ages in living standards terms, which is where they're headed right now? And then outrageous deals that may put some extra money into the oil and gas industry in the United States, but long run does nothing for us, and certainly doesn't bring any manufacturing productivity back to the United States. So the whole thing is a scam. It's another big marketing pitch. It's irrelevant, but he's riding what he thinks is this great wave, and he thinks he's God.
And you said a second ago that Zelensky is a puppet. He may not know he's a puppet. He may also have his own version of a God complex, because here's how he reacted to Trump's comment about the 10-day deadline.
Today, there is an extremely important statement of President Trump, and this is true. It is Russia that does everything to break the peace efforts and delay this war. Every night, strikes, constant Russian attempts to hurt Ukraine. Indeed, there can be peace if you act strongly and decisively. And we have repeatedly said, and all partners know, that sanctions are a key element. Russia respects sanctions, respects such losses. Peace, however strong, is possible. Ukraine, as always, is ready to work as productively as possible for America. To work with President Trump in order to end this war with dignity and lasting peace.
So either he has totally lost contact with reality and thinking that anything positive from his perspective is possible on the battlefield, or he's just a willing participant, whether it's a puppet or just a co-conspirator in keeping the war going as long as they can. I mean, how do you see it?
Both he and the president are puppets in the same theater. This is what people don't understand. Look at the people that surround President Trump. Look at the people that contributed to his campaign to elect him to office. They are driving policy. They are driving it in the Middle East. They are driving it in Europe. They want Russia to be destroyed. Now, Russia is not going to be destroyed. That's very obvious. But the same people are unwilling under any circumstances to admit that they may have miscalculated, that they may have been wrong. And you know who is very uncomfortable ever admitting that he's wrong about anything is Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is much more at ease threatening and bullying than he is at stepping forward and saying, you know, this war was a mistake and we've got to get beyond this. And therefore, we have to have a team sit down, establish Russia's interests, what they are and what they demand, understand clearly, and see if we can find a way to breathe life into the comatose body of this nation called Ukraine. But he's not prepared to do that. The other puppet in Kiev is going to continue to sing that song until he is dead or removed. He has no alternative. He can do nothing else, because to do something else would result in his immediate replacement by a new puppet who would sing the tune. Remember, everything is being financed, driven, directed, and orchestrated from London and Washington, D.C., and especially New York City. Who's doing it? Who are the billionaire oligarchs that are demanding these actions and pushing these policies? Whom have they purchased on the Hill? Whenever you listen to Senator Lindsey Graham speak, all you have to do is look at his donors. Where does his money come from? And all of a sudden you begin to figure out, my gosh, I guess there's a reason he says what he does. Well, the same thing is true for President Trump and this man Zelensky. It's not a clear-cut division. President Trump is an independent, free agent who thinks on his own, decides on his own, after consulting with people that are well-informed and informing himself. No, it's not that. It has never been that. How else do you go from the Trump of 2024 campaigning and talking about we've got to end these conflicts, we've got to disengage from these, we've got to promote peace and stability, I want to bring back manufacturing, I want to promote prosperity, and oh, by the way, that Epstein file needs to be released. There has to be accountability and transparency in government. What's happened to all of that? It's gone.
That's a great point.
Because the people that elected him are not interested in those things. And they don't give a damn about the American people or you and me or anybody else. And who are these generals that run around and make these outrageous statements? You know, just a couple of years ago, we had some Navy admiral talking about fighting and winning a nuclear war. Now we have this man, Donahue, one of the co-architects of the disaster associated with disengaging from Afghanistan, who for his incompetence has now been promoted to 4 stars. And he's now threatening the Russians over Kaliningrad, this small slice of East Prussia that was given to Stalin by FDR towards the end of the war. Well, I think that's regrettable. I'm sorry East Prussia went out of business. I'm sorry Prussia went out of business. But unfortunately, it's out. It's done. We can't reverse that now. And the Russians actually tried to sell it, by the way, when Gorbachev was in power, when the Germans were buying East Germany. But the theory was we've spent too much money already, so they didn't buy East Prussia. Well, the Russians have made good use of East Prussia. They've got a port there. They've built factories there. They have a population there. They have actually restored much of what was German and Prussian in East Prussia. It treated the Germans very well. I think the bottom line is you can't reverse this and you shouldn't try. That's done. Nobody goes to war over that now. That's sort of like Taiwan. You know, Taiwan actually speaks Chinese. I mean, what do you want to do? Make them speak Japanese? I mean, this is insane. The whole thing is crazy. But we're engaged in this. And here's a general that steps up and says, in a few days, we can run right over this and take it. This is also an architect of many failed operations back on the Dnieper River, down near Kherson. You're familiar with that, Dave.
He's got a really awful track record, both in the withdrawing from Afghanistan and in the offensive in 2023. Just hideous.
Well, remember when we were on active duty, how many times did people repeat the old adage in our officer corps? Screw up, move up.
Move up.
And that's what's happened. There's been no accountability, no transparency. But he's one of our guys. We're going to push him forward. One of our guys. That means he'll repeat whatever stupidity you want him to, and he'll try to execute it as long as it doesn't come at the cost of his life.